Now we come to Samson. G.K. Chesterton, the Catholic author, in one of his Father Brown detective novels wrote, "I caught him with an unseen hook and an invisible line, which is long enough to let him wander to the ends of the world, and still to bring him back with a twitch upon the thread." In the story of Samson, God lets his chosen hero wander to the ends of the world, and at the very end of his life, brings him back with a twitch upon the thread. Samson is a perfect miniature of Israel. He is chosen by God. He is given a special task and a special covenantal relationship with God. But he is constantly unfaithful to God. He would rather try and marry a Canaanite woman, or failing that, sleep with a Canaanite prostitute. He is used by God despite himself, over and over again. Still, God never gives up on him. And when Samson hits his lowest low, he finds God, offers his wasted life as a sacrifice, and finally becomes a man of faith. His story begins with a barren mother. The angel of the Lord appears to her and says, "Behold, you shall conceive and bear a son. Drink no wine, eat nothing unclean, and never cut his hair. For he shall be a Nazirite from birth, bound to the Lord, and he shall begin to deliver Israel from the Philistines." Then, in one of the funnier moments in the book of Judges, the woman goes and tells her husband about this visit from the man of God with the face of an angel. The husband prays that God would provide further instruction. So the angel of the Lord shows up to the wife again. When the husband comes up and asks for further instruction, the angel says, "I already told your wife what to do. Listen to her." Again, the continual theme of mistrust between men and women. So, what is this Nazirite vow? Israelites took a Nazirite vow when they wanted to dedicate themselves to God in a special way. It meant giving up certain specific outer things. No grapes or grape products. No touching anything dead. And no cutting the hair. This was usually a temporary vow for a short time. It's a little like Lent. People would give something up. They would strive to grow closer to God. And when their goal was complete, the vow was over. There are only 3 people in the Bible who were lifelong Nazirites, declared Nazirites from birth: Samson, Samuel, and John the Baptist. All 3 of them had mothers who couldn't conceive. All 3 of them had their births announced by an angel. Samuel and John the Baptist go on to preach, "Repent," to lead a great revival, to prepare the way of the Lord. Samson, not so much. The first time we see Samson, he is a young man ordering his parents to go out and get him a Philistine wife. Of course, this is against God's command, and his parents object. Weren't you chosen by God to drive out the Philistines? That's what we remember hearing. Samson doesn't care. "Get her for me, for she is right in my eyes." For, of course, there is no king in Israel. Every man does what is right in his own eyes. This marriage is not from God, but God is going to use it. As Samson and his parents are walking to the Philistine village to negotiate for Samson's bride, they're attacked by a young lion. Samson kills the lion with his bare hands. It's the first time we see his amazing physical courage and strength. But sometime later, walking the same path on the way to his own wedding, Samson walks through a vineyard. He shouldn't be anywhere near grapes. He finds the lion carcass with a swarm of bees in it and touches it. He's forbidden to touch the dead. And he takes some fresh honey from the lion's carcass and eats it. And gives some to his parents without telling them where it came from. That's some really unclean food.
Yeah.
And more than that, he wants to spread the uncleanness. In short, Samson casually and pointlessly breaks every bit of his Nazirite vow in the space of about 5 minutes' time. He couldn't care less about his relationship with God. He couldn't care less about the great task God has called him to. In fact, he can hardly keep from bragging about his transgressions. look what I did. At his own wedding feast, he comes up with a riddle for the Philistines. Out of the eater came something to eat. Out of the strong came something sweet. He bets the Philistines at the wedding 30 fine robes that they can't solve the riddle in 7 days. It's a 7-day feast. Good luck. The wedding party can't guess and becomes angry. They start threatening Samson's new wife. Tell us what the answer is, or we'll kill you and your family. So, Samson's wife spends the week of her wedding feast weeping and begging her new husband, "You don't love me. If you really loved me, you tell me the answer to your riddle." Finally, on the 7th day, sick to death of hearing her whine, Samson tells her, and she tells the other Philistines. So the Philistines give the answer. What is sweeter than honey? What is stronger than a lion? They demand payment. Samson accuses them of sleeping with his wife. If you had not plowed with my heifer, you would not have found out my riddle. Furious, he goes down into the Philistine city, kills 30 men, and takes the robes off of their cold, dead bodies to pay the debt. He goes home with his parents in anger, leaves his wife behind. Samson has a simply awful character. Boastful, foolish, driven by lust, first and foremost, driven by anger, number 2, and he just can't stop shooting himself in the foot. I would say he's an immature adolescent who never grows up, but that's an insult to actual adolescence. Samson stays with his parents for many weeks and cools down. Then he decides he's going to reclaim his wife. So he shows up at his father-in-law's door holding a goat for a gift and says, and I quote, "I've come to sleep with my wife." His father-in-law says, I really thought you hated her, so I gave her to your best man. Please, isn't her younger sister beautiful? Take her. Samson is enraged. He comes up with creative revenge. He catches 30 foxes, ties them up tail to tail, and puts a torch between each pair of tails. I'm having a hard time picturing this. He then lights the torches and sets the foxes free in the Philistine fields and olive groves, burning them down. The Philistines kill Samson's wife and her whole family for provoking him to anger. They can't catch Samson, so they kill Samson's in-laws. When Samson finds out his wife is dead, he kills all the Philistines of that city in return. Now, there's war on. The Philistines attack Judah, trying to kill Samson. The men of Judah confront Samson, saying, "Why have you provoked an invasion? Why are you making our lives miserable?" They tie Samson's hand with rope and hand him over to the Philistines. It's a little ambiguous whether or not he's letting them do it. As soon as they hand him over, the Spirit of the Lord comes mightily upon him. Samson breaks his bonds, grabs the jawbone of a donkey, and uses it to kill 1,000 Philistine warriors. Really?
1,000 people.
1,000 people.
One guy.
One guy with a jawbone. I'm picturing this kind of like the stormtroopers in Star Wars, where they all run up at him one at a time. They all kind of wait their turn. I don't know how this could have happened.
If you ever saw the movie,
I did see the movie. How
the
many?
guy is just swinging the jawbone, and they're just like they're coming up to him. And he's just, next.
Next. Yeah.
Really ridiculous.
As fast as they can run up, he brings them down. If you haven't seen the Samson movie, I remember it came out a couple of years ago in theaters, and it was surprisingly good. Watch it if you get a chance.
But this is not a nice man.
No, this is not a nice man. And yet, God is using him to defend Israel against the Philistines. This is definitely not the way that he should be doing it. And yet, God is with him anyway. And you know,
there's hope for us all.
That's actually a really good message of the book of Judges is there's hope for us all. There's hope for Samson. I already talked about just what kind of a character he was, and yet he's redeemed. There's hope for us all.
Could jawbone mean like gun? In ancient Israel?
Not seeing how that can work, really, no.
This is one of those stories.
Well, it's happened before. I'm trying to remember the name of the earlier judge, but there's the earlier minor judge who killed
this guy's
600
just
men
smart.
with an oxagoad, a pointy stick. This is in the same vein.